So, hi everyone. So this talk is the title is Researching Sephardic Ancestors in Portugal with Tombo.pt. It's not going to be very specific to Sephardic ancestors, but I welcome your questions at the end. David has already kind of introduced part of this. I'm a father of two boys, started doing their genealogy. So myself and my wife's genealogy a long time ago. And I quickly discovered that basically my genealogy is like the map on the right there, that I'm basically from everywhere in Portugal. And at the time, this required me to go to a lot of different sites and to press refresh. So about 12 years ago, exactly to almost to the day, I developed Tombo.pt, and and that has been serving myself and the general Portuguese genealogy community since then. Um, I haven't found any Sephardi yet in my genealogy, but being from Faro and this being a map of Faro in in 1620s, where you can see where the Cristãos Novos were living, and in blue here in the center of the castle, where now it's the municipal museum, used to be the Jewish quarter. I must have some Sephardi ancestor. So eventually I'll become one of you as well. Um, this was me recently. As I said, I'm a scuba diver. So I went to Curacao, and as a good genealogist, I went to visit the Jewish museum there and the synagogue. And I was fascinated by the tombstones being in Portuguese that I could read quite clearly. So getting back to general Portuguese genealogy. So one of the important things, and I know this is many centuries after most of your ancestors have left Portugal, there is one important thing that happens is in 1910 Portugal becomes a republic, and this means that finally the hold of the Catholic Church in power, because the monarchy and the Catholic Church were kind of preserving each other. As the de facto powers in Portugal. When the revolution manages to overthrow the monarchy, and a lot of things change. And one of the things that changes is in March 31st, 1911. That's the last day that the priests were allowed to write in their parish records. The law is from some time before, I can't remember exact date, but that's basically the day that the police went to every church and confiscated all the parish books. And then, of course, 1st of April of 1911, all the priests had to start a new book. Those books still exist. They are most of them in the churches still. But from that moment on, there was now a government administrated civil register. So we don't, in Portugal, we don't care about the post 9/11 parish records that much. The one good thing about this is, unlike later in Spain, other countries where, well, revolutions happened, the churches got destroyed. The fact that all these books were in the end of the Portuguese state made it that they are all in a few central locations. They're all under good conditions, and they've all been microfilm, digitized. In that sense, Portugal is basically like a genealogist's paradise, because it's so easy to go to the 1500s. So what happened in that day in 1911? Like everything went to to the um, the civil register conservatories, and and they only wanted the books from the 1860s onwards. So basically the previous 50 years. Books older than that, they all went to Lisbon into a thing called the National Parish Archive, Parish Record Archive. And there's a lot of stories of what happened to the books after that. They kind of moved around. But for instance, in Faro, all the books prior to 1860 are still in Lisbon. So if you want to search, and this is one of the things that Tombo.pt helps, is if you want to search in Faro, in the Faro district for parish records before the 1860s, you could not search for them within the Faro district archive. You had to search for it in the National Archive. So yeah, and in the meantime, the civil registers, they need to be sending all the recent books over to the district archives as I explain here. So anything older than 100 years for births should be in the district archives, for 50 years for marriages, 30 for death. Unfortunately, a lot of the conservatories don't follow the law. So in case you also are searching for recent things, you don't actually know if something recent is in the district archive or in the conservatorium, and you need to ask for it. So another thing that at this time happened, so the map of 1911, which is kind of what Tombo.pt is based on, we have two administrative areas that basically were unchanged between 1835 when they were established and 1911. So the districts and the parish, the freguesias, is basically one-to-one with what existed before. So and this is very useful because although the Tombo.pt site, you're navigating in the civil administration because one level was not exactly the same. There was a thing called the municipalities, which are kind of the mid-level between the districts and the parishes. They changed a lot, and parishes moved from one to another. Some of them changing borders slightly, but for practical terms in genealogy, that is usually not very important. So the fact that you can use the Tombo.pt structure to navigate to similar administrative areas than exist today helps quite a lot. And then you go down to the parish level where you can find the books. So what does this result in? So it resulted in that the books themselves are physically in quite a lot of different places. So there's one national archive, Torre do Tombo, in Lisbon, that is also the district archive for Lisbon. There's 17 district archives, two of them, the one for Coimbra and the one for Braga, they are delegated to universities. And this makes actually a difference because they are not under the same ministry as all the other ones. So because they are under universities, they belong to the Ministry of Science and Higher Education, whereas everything else belongs to the Ministry of Culture. And then you've got 3 regional archives in the Azores and 1 in Madeira. The good thing about the Azores is, although they are 3 different archives, they use one single site. And then there is, of note, one municipal archive. I should have written it here actually, which is from Guimarães. So in the district of Braga, there is the town of Guimarães where Portugal started from, and quite a long time ago, there's quite some rivalry between Guimarães and Braga, and as a favor to Guimarães, the dictatorship in Portugal at the time decided, oh, we'll do a favor to Guimarães, and the district, the parish books for Guimarães will not be in Braga; they will be in the municipal archive in Guimarães. So that's one that, if you're searching for Guimarães, you'd have to go to the municipal archive. And then there is the special case of the Diocese of Lamego, which is kind of roughly corresponding to the north of the Viseu area. That is the only diocese in Portugal that that does not correspond to a district. So they still also have some books that are not in any district archive. So what does this all mean? It means that if you're researching in Portugal, you might consult up to 7 different sites. And up to a month ago, those 7 different sites were actually 22. So all the archives, all the sites belonging to the district archives that are under the Ministry of Culture, they are now unified in one single site, which actually is better in terms of stability, even though probably it broke every URL that you might have had saved to your previous research. But still, it's still 7 different sites that you need to access. And if you don't know all this history that I just told you about the Guimarães stuff being in the municipal archive, and about the fact that for instance, the old ones from Faro are not in Faro but are in Lisbon, it can lead to a lot of confusion. I frequently saw people saying, "Oh, why are there no books for Faro older than 1860?" And everyone else was like, "Go to Tombo, and the answer will be clear to you." Yeah. So how do you use the Tombo website? It looks like this. You've got a search bar here that you can use. There's a sidebar with the location hierarchy, and then the main area, which when you start as the news. So one of the things that the site does is it indexes periodically all these different sites that I just spoke about, and if there's anything new, then it issues a report with what has been found. There's a little flag on the top right corner that you can use to switch between English and Portuguese. I might one of these days actually remove the flag, because I don't think the Americans understand that the English flag is for English and not for the UK. But other than that, yeah, it's fairly easy to switch. You click on it and it switches over the language. So how to use it? You can either search for a town name in the search box, or if you know the hierarchy, you can navigate going district, municipality, civil, parish. If you're searching in the islands, you need to go. It's not shown here. Below all the districts, there's a list of regions. So you must first start with the region. So for instance, Azores, then it's divided in islands. So you need to search for the right island. And then within the islands, there's the municipalities and the parishes. And then when you are within any of these areas, it changes what you can see on the main area of the site. So at district level, you've got stuff like Governo Civil records, so civil government, which was kind of an administrative unit for each district that is now been extinguished, and they were the ones that were issuing passports until very recently. So you got all the passport requests there. The diocesan level records are also there, because, as I said, you kind of have a one-to-one between dioceses and districts. There's the caveat there that not the Inquisition, that's all in Lisbon, and honestly, they basically are too many to list easily in the site. And then at municipal level, you've got stuff like the post 1911 civil registry, and the registry for non-Catholics that existed between 1832 and 1911. And then at parish level, you've got the Catholic records. And then there's a top bar with links to sites of interest. And I can show that. So I went to Belmonte, which is kind of the most, for Portuguese, it's kind of the most known case of a Jewish community that kept their links throughout the centuries. And you can see that, let's start with the blue area here. These are the links to the top level collection in the source. So here there's some books that, and this year it clearly happened the same that I said in Faro. So you've got the books from 1567 to 1846 that are in the Torre do Tombo in Lisbon. And then you've got books from 1823 to 1911 that are in the, oh God, no, it's the part, in the Castelo Branco district archive. So if you don't trust me that much on the list below, you could access the original collections and then navigate there through these two links there. Above that is links to sites of interest. So I usually link to Wikipedia because, to be honest, if you want to know the history of a certain town or of a certain parish or even the district, the Wikipedia is way better than me at maintaining that kind of detailed story. So you've got a link to Wikipedia, you have a link to the homepage of the district archive, and then you've got what I can find about that area that might be databases of interest. So in this case, there's two ones. There's one for a site that did some indexing in the Beira Baixa area, and to which Belmonte belongs to. Here is kind of the difference also between provinces, which are stuff like Beira Baixa, Beira Alta, and districts, which are things like Porto Alegre, Castelo Branco, and Guarda. And unfortunately, they're not one-to-one. So yeah, in any case, Beira Baixa, somebody's been indexing them. And then there's the Genealogy AFB, which also has a lot of links to volunteer generated indexes. And then in green, it's the area where basically everything that I've been able to crawl for this area is, and as you can see, even if it's just at the bottom, first it starts with a series area, so kind of a table of contents, and then you've got the the book name, the dates, and then that thing that says TT there. It's basically saying that this is in the Torre do Tombo archive. And if you click there, so the two links, the one on the left takes you directly to the book. The one on the right, where it says TT, takes you to the catalog description of the book. And then the phone and email is a link if you need to contact the district archive to suggest any corrections that people could use that. Yeah, so that's that. So now, once you've opened the books, you've got, unfortunately, for the time that most of you are interested, you've got really sparse information. So the earlier the earlier records, they don't provide that much information. They use abbreviations a lot. So in this case, you can see here on the right where it's written MEL. That's an abbreviation for Manuel. And what's written here, basically, it's what I wrote below, but it means aos 26 dias de novembro de 1583, with like 26th of November 1583. And here you can see that they were still writing the numbers of the date. That changes sometime later. They are forbidden to write the date with numbers. They must start to write it fully, and that it baptized and something that something Emanuel. So here it's Emanuel, to Manuel, filho. So there's the abbreviation for FO, which is filho, de João, of João Ribeiro, e de Ana, não, e de sua mulher, Ana Fernandes. So ANNA, and then this scribble meaning FEZ, which is the abbreviation for Fernandes. And then it names the godfathers, which I'm not going to go into. And then, like a century later, it's basically the same. So this one, I'll go fast through it, but it's em 17 de março de 680 nasceu. So in 17 of March of 1680, 16 of 680, there's no 1000 here. But you can see that they cannot use the numbers anymore. But and that they kind of stopped using some abbreviations, even though there's still MAL on the left. Usually, for instance, Barbara Mendes, which is the name of the mother, usually would be written Barbara MZ for Mendes. So they stopped also using abbreviations at this time. And then you get quite later, as I think this is kind of the maximum that you guys would be interested in 1724. It's basically the same. So on the 6 days of the months of February of 1700, 1700. I just saw that he wrote 1700 twice. So 1700 and 1721. So I wrote 24 on top. Need to change that. That they baptized and applied the holy oils to Luis, filho legítimo. This is the one major difference. At some point, they started introducing whether the children were legitimate or not, which does help in figuring out if you can go and search for a marriage or not. If it's written filho natural or filho ilegítimo, then you're dealing with a non-maternity, non-marriage event. So so you'd waste your time if you want to go search for the marriage, even though it might be possible that they are legitimized later. So what you'd know is you should not search for the marriage before this date. It might be that the parents marry afterwards. Yeah, so basically, and then just lists the names of the parents and the godfathers and not much more. And then we get to the really nice part, which probably is too late for most of you, where the birth records really get detailed, and they have what I like to think about as like a double lock. So in this case, it's written Crispim, filho de Luís Vargas, so son of Luís Vargas, and his wife Maria Gonçalves, of the first marriage, naturais desta vila, de Farinho, so both born in this village, and the parish of St. Louis. And here is the innovation. It says here, neto pela parte paterna, so paternal grandson of Sebastião de Vargas, natural of Barrancos, and his wife Maria Gomes, natural desta vila de Farinho, so of this village of Farinho, and pela materna and maternal grandson of João Gonçalves, natural do Reino do Algarve, so natural of the Algarve, and his wife Margarida Fernandes. So here you see you have quite a lot more information. You have information of where the people are from, you have the information that who are the grandparents, which I don't know if you've done, if this is your experience, but my experience in my ancestors is usually that I have way too many José marrying Maria, and it actually becomes hard sometimes to pull apart which couples, because you do get the fact that you have couples with the same name living in the same parish and having children at the same time, and it can actually become quite hard to tell them apart, and then you need to kind of try to see by the connections and by the godparents where the with who is who. Whereas from 1742 onwards, in most cases, you have this double lock that it also names the grandparents, so you don't. It's way easier to distinguish, because they, even if the parents have the same, even if two couples have the same names, it has never happened to me that all four grandparents have the same name. So then you can easily tell them apart. Yeah, but as I was explained, this is usually way too late for most of your researches, because it is my it from what I was told and I could read online, by the 1750s, like there was virtually no Sephardi Jews anymore in Portugal. Like the ones that remained, well, they started being Cristãos Novos, and then they were simply Christians. Yeah, so those were the records that basically how the records are structured in the dates. Marriage records follow very similar level of complexities. They also start to name the grandparents at some point. Other sites that I think would be of interest to you guys if you don't know them. There is a site called inquisição.info, where somebody basically crawled the Tombo site and as a searchable database of all the Inquisition processes. I was told by David Mendonça that the Sephardi world also did the same, and you share an Excel sheet probably online with the same data. If you are too lazy to go and find the link to your own Excel sheet, inquisição.info might be one that you could use. Of course, of interest is also the original source of all the records, which is now a single site, digitarch.arquivos.pt. There is another site very similar to Tombo.pt, which is repositoriohistórico.pt. It did not yet update the links to Digitarch, so basically all their links are dead, but they do have some indexes for different parishes, which might be of interest to some people. One other site that is really interesting is Genealogy FB. It has a lot of volunteer created indexes to which I usually link in that interesting links that I place at the top bar of the site. There is a site also, Nós Portugueses, which is a subscription site, so you need to become a member of an association to be able to access this site, and it has a lot of indexes to a few municipalities. So in the municipalities where I think like 6 or 7 municipalities out of the 300 in Portugal where they have had indexes, it is fairly complete. One important one is they have a really good Lisbon marriage list that if anyone wants to understand Lisbon, Lisbon is is a bit harder to understand than any other town in Portugal, because every other town has like 2-3 parishes at most. So when you want to search for a marriage, let's say, or a birth, and you know the year, you can simply go to those 2 or 3 parishes and search for them. Lisbon has 30, 40 parishes, so that the going into every book and searching for the record it becomes unfeasible. And then there's also the military archive. So if your ancestor was in the military in Portugal, they might have some records in those archives. So the Navy, the Arquivo Histórico da Marinha, which is from the Navy, the Arquivo Histórico Militar, which is from the regular army, the other branch of the military, the Air Force, of course, doesn't have any historical archive for obvious reasons, and then there's the Germil project, which is it's an acronym for genealogy in military records, which is also very interesting because you can actually search for names, and it might provide you with the link to the record of your ancestor. Yeah. Now this is a screenshot of the Inquisition site. It does not, unlike Tombo.pt, there's no version in English, so there's no English flag to click on to switch it off. But on the other end, if you use Google Chrome, you can use, or any browser that has a translation mechanism inbuilt, you can use that. So that's what I used to create this screenshot, and you basically you have the record with all the information of this Inquisition process. So a woman called Ventura Mendes, which I found interesting because it's actually 2 of my main surnames, from Miranda, and she was kind of arrested in 1660, and then told to depart in 1666. Yeah, and other types of documents that, of course, would be interesting for you in your Sephardic research. The main one, of course, again, being the Inquisition processes. So those you go to the main Digitarch site, and under the reference code PT TT TSO, you have access to everything there. So there's all the processes there. There's also, in my case, for instance, I'm related to a familiar of the Inquisition, so the kind of the people that wanted to have sort of middle level civil jobs in Portugal at the time, and they wanted to be in good terms with the Inquisition. They applied to be a familiar, and a couple of my ancestors do have those records, and they're quite old. Like these records, I think it's from 1583, the one that I remember. There's also the notary documents. So these ones, unfortunately, not many of them are digitized yet. There is an ongoing process in the archives to digitize them and put them online. But there are like millions of images, so it's a slow process. So if you want to search for the notaries, you'd search for cartório notarial, and then the town that you're looking for. And if nothing comes up, go like one level above, maybe to the district or to the nearest main town, and you should be able to access these notary documents. And what do they have? They have wills. They have cases of investigations when somebody dies, of what what goods the family has that could go to the orphans, there's all the records of sales, so all the transactions that happened, all the business transactions that happened are also recorded. And depending on the notary, you will have more or less information. The good thing is many of them are starting in the 1500s. So it is quite likely that you will be able to find some records of your ancestors in the cartórios notariais. There's also the generic qualifications. These probably are completely useless for Catholic positions, because this would be the applications for being a priest, where you have to prove to the well to the Catholic Church institution that you don't have polluted blood, so that your blood was fully Christian. So even if some Sephardi descendants applied to this, they were probably lying. So take that with a grain of salt. There's the confessados rolls. So these would be the closest thing to a census back in the 1500s, 1600s. So sometimes the parish was asked to create a list of everyone that confessed in that church. So you would get a list basically of everyone that exists there at the time, and it would be grouped by families. So you would get a good idea of, if you find one of these, of course, because they're not very common to exist still. But if you find one of these, you'll get quite a good list of your family. One thing that I have to say, because a lot of people are used to Anglo-Saxon genealogy, where the census is the main document. We don't really have census records in Portugal. We do have censuses in the sense of the 10-year census. We do have them, but the replies after they are collected and the statistic information is extracted, all the replies are destroyed. So even of the 2021 census, there is no personal information there at all for future genealogists in Portugal to use. There is things similar to census records, which is the election census that started happening after 1836. So basically, it was a list of everyone that was allowed to vote at that time, which of course did not include women. It also did not include poor people. So it was basically the same kind of democracy at that time, even though it was a monarchy, but still they had elections. But it was the kind of elections that ancient Greece had, where only patricians had the access to be able to vote. And then you have the military census, which started after 1855. That can be quite useful because every boy when reaching 20, 21 years of age would be recorded here. Yeah, and that's the types of documents. So I want to say obrigado to everyone that came to this talk today. And if you have any questions, doubts, I'll pass to David again to moderate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was really excellent. It's a talk we've needed because it's just a subject we haven't looked at all. Would you like to close your PowerPoint and then we can?
Yeah. I think I can stop sharing. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let me start off with a couple of questions myself. You were talking, you were saying that Lisbon has a large number of parishes. I was always assuming that the records before the sort of great earthquake and tsunami no longer exist. And obviously, Lisbon is quite an important town for us. Are there surviving records of parish records and other records before the earthquake?
For the So for the parishes that were affected by like it wasn't that that all of Lisbon burned. There was a lot of churches in Lisbon did burn,
Yeah.
and others were flooded. So, but if you've been to Lisbon, it's Ely. So there's also churches that didn't get flooded and didn't even if they collapsed, they didn't catch on fire. So there are parishes that have documents from before the 1755s, um, but there are also others that, yeah, of course, you reach the 1755 date and there's no records there. What did happen in some cases is what is called reconstituted records, um, where people say, "Hey, my baptism record was destroyed during the fire, and I want to get married. So I come here with a few witnesses, and I I certify, and these people as well, that I was baptized already on the certain date. So the priest will write a baptism record for someone before 1755. But like those are really hard to trace because they can be any time. Can be like 1780 or 1790 if someone that's 40 years old decides to marry. But it
Thank
does
you.
happen.
For the Belmonte series, you had a category mixed records.
Yeah.
In English parishes, obviously Church of England is somewhat different from the Catholic Church. The parish was responsible for looking after poor people and so on within it. I was just curious to know what might be in the mixed records.
So the mixed records, the reason, like they were forced to keep a book with the records, and what usually happened was they didn't keep three separate books for the births and deaths and marriages. They kind of
Yeah.
had a book, and they were writing in the book until they kind of reached the area. So that they started writing birth records, etc., etc. Then they left lots of pages empty, and then they started with the marriage records, and then they left a lot of pages empty, and then the death records. Now, what happened would be from time to time that they would run out of space, and then they would start writing birth records at in the blank pages that they still had. Um, so these are books, the mixed books are books that the archives were not able to kind of separate. And this
Okay.
is way more often common in the early books. I should actually make sure that I move the mixed books to the top of the list because it is a lot of people miss the fact that the mixed books are there and that they contain the earliest and actually hardest to read records.
Did the parish or the diocese have a responsibility for poor people within their jurisdiction, or were they just sort of left alone? And if so, are there any surviving records anywhere?
The what happened for that is there's a thing called the Santa Casa da Misericórdia, um, and the House of Mercy, as one would translate it. These things are they still exist. So these were so they were actually an arm of the church, yes,
Yeah.
and but they were kind of funded locally. Honestly, I'm not an expert on how they got their funding, but they were funded locally also from getting money from the state and sponsoring from the royal family, etc. Like I can tell you, one case that is still very prominent in Portugal today is the Misericordia of Lisbon still has the monopoly on gaming in Portugal. So the lottery is still coming from the monarchy times. The lottery is still uh, administered by the Misericordia of Lisbon, and of course this gives them a lot of money that they could then use in charitable purposes. Yeah, I think that's basically where the responsibility for the poor people ended in Portugal.
Okay, because I was specifically thinking of people who've been through an auto de fe. They've been sort of reconciled by the Inquisition, so they've lost all their property. I'm just wondering if people like that, of course, might later appear. On a related question, actually, a member of my
Sure, if they are mendigos, if they are poor people, like
yeah,
they would get support there. But the kind of records, like the problem with these is these were institutions that were always fighting with budget problems.
yeah.
So their archives are not in the same conditions as the Catholic the parishes, which had better facilities usually.
Thank you. And one last question, or maybe it's a point, and perhaps David Silvera can advise on it. I'm just wondering. Before the meeting, we were just talking about using Transcribus, this sort of AI that transcribes text.
Yeah,
If we have multiple paragraphs that more or less have similar text, I would hope that that makes it considerably easier in terms of transcription. But obviously other people here know much more on that subject than I do. Funny enough, one of whom is asking a question. Bernard, over to you.
Uh,
yeah. So maybe one thing, let me do one quick hack here, which
Yes,
is to actually go into, let me try and see if I can, I'll need to share again very quickly.
of course.
Sorry. Let's go with this one. Share this screen and then slideshow this. Yeah, so this is a parish record that from one of my ancestors, very recent, 1894.
Yes,
This was what Transcribus gave me on parsing that image. So it basically started getting right aos 3 de junho de 1894, but everything that is in red, it's just not there. Like either it's rubbish or wrong. Like the part that would be interesting would be the name. So it should be Lucilia,
yes,
and it's the daughter of José Ribeiro, a maritime, so he's a fisherman, and Maria dos Prazeres. And this is what Transcribus gave me. This is what I asked ChatGPT with the same image to give me. As you can see, there's a lot less red, even though it also couldn't get the José Ribeiro and the Maria dos Prazeres. But I honestly don't know how. Yeah, this is basically my current impression of how good Transcribus is. Uh, let's get back to the presentation, to
yeah.
your questions.
No, I mean, just again, David and Bernard and others know much more than me.
Yeah,
But if you're training it and there's a finite number of given names and surnames, hopefully that works. My potty trick is actually to run it through Transcribus and then put it in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to make sense. But others who
that
know
helps.
more.
Yes.
But Bernard, do you want to unmute?
okay, first of all, João, thank you so much for all the work you've put into creating this and for sharing it with us
Thank you.
and for the presentation. It's really valuable. And thank you for showing us that example of how Transcribus had dealt with at least one record and the comparison with ChatGPT. I'm one of the volunteers who works with David Silvera on the Nação Hebraica project. And I was commenting when we met on Thursday that normally there are 2, 3, or 4 of us working on a page of text. And it may take all of us 20, 30 minutes to correct the transcriber's transcription when it probably took the scribe less than 20 seconds to write what we have been fighting with. But it does mean that at the end we are getting reasonably, I think, high quality transcriptions. So although we're putting in a lot of work, because David is training transcribers as we go along, its recognition rate is getting much better. Still got a long way to go, but thanks to David's work, I think it is going to make things much easier for people in the future. I have a very specific question, and it's at the opposite end of the scale from David's question. When I first started looking into my Portuguese and Spanish family and their post-Inquisition experiences, I was totally ignorant. Now I'm only almost totally ignorant. But I had
Same as
kind
me.
of assumed that once the Inquisition had happened, that Jews or New Christians were basically second, third, fourth class citizens. And so I was very surprised to discover a lot of my family members, some direct ancestors, mostly cousins, but going back to the 1600s, had senior appointments and ended up as governors of places like India, Mozambique, Angola, parts of Brazil. And I was very surprised at this. And initially, the first couple of times it happened, I thought, I've got the wrong people. But when
Yeah.
I traced through, I realized that these were, in fact, family members. And so my question is about a different set of records, which I doubt would be at parish level. But do you know of somewhere where you would find something like a coherent set of records of government appointments, and particularly appointments to governorships or senior positions in government and administration?
Yeah. So yeah, not coherent. Like there is one other archive which is now also can be found in the same DigiTarc site, which is the ultramarine historical archive,
Ah, thank you.
which you can now search directly in DigiTarc. There is a part where you can search for the organizations, and you can still like limit your search to that ultramarine archive. But anything to do with Portugal outside of mainland Portugal would be positions there would be usually in that archive. But there's also stuff in Torre do Tombo on the Indies company, because it wasn't only the Netherlands that had a West Indies company. There was also a Companhia das Índias in Portugal, which is in Torre do Tombo. It's that kind of stuff would be scattered across the organization to which these people belong to. Um, I the good thing is now with a single website, and it's getting way better to on terms of search. I would simply say if you want to search for, I don't know, Francisco Mendonça, there's type in Francisco Mendonça and see what comes out. It might be that you get your relative, or might be that you get someone completely different. But as at a first attempt, I would try to go to the wide net, and then
Thank you. And
kind
just
of.
throw in as a kind of odd fact, which again really surprised me, is that of the, and I've lost track, I think there were 204 governors of Portuguese India between 1605 and 19, is it 61?
Mhm.
And of those, it looks as though three quarters were New Christians.
Yeah, like the thing was also like a lot of these positions were almost kind of hereditary. Like you got trained by your father to do it, and you had to request, of course, to the king to to then become the new governor or the new judge or whatever. But you would the, the king would usually, if there's nothing preventing the son of the previous owner of inheriting the position, it would usually be passed on. I don't know if at governor level, because that was kind of really high, but many other positions were that happened a lot. And to the fact that new Christians got them, well, what what can I say? Like the fact is, even though the Inquisition took away their possessions, they didn't take away their network,
Mm.
and they didn't take away their education.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
At the
mean,
governor
money
level,
comes
they
back
were often
after.
rotated. So they would do 2 years in India, 2 years in Angola, 2 years in Brazil, and then back again.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
thank you very much.
But I've seen that the inheritance of government posts happen in other cases.
Right. Thank you for that, Bernard. I think just to follow on from that, we mentioned the notarial archives, which have not or barely been digitized. I suspect for us that will be the complete gold mine, because the New
Yeah.
Christians really were the merchant class, and we certainly have from the other side in Amsterdam, from the notarial archives there, we have lots of information. Uh, David, I'm just really interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, it's rather interesting, the results on ChatGPT in that example. I'll give it a try myself. I've certainly used it a lot for translations. But the transcribers, we really have to train the system. It's learning, and it only knows what you train it on. So each time we come across a new scribe, and that's almost in every book, sometimes in every page, we have to retrain, and things get better. But it keeps us, Bernard, myself, and Ton pretty busy. We
Yeah.
keep
I
getting ahead
think
of it.
if I can say something there with my computer science hat, the problem with transcribos is that the transformers are very basic at the moment. So it doesn't it tries to understand what's written in the word, so kind of guessing what the characters are, but it has no information on Portuguese language, and it has no information on what words should follow what words, which is basically you need a large language model
Yeah,
inserted into Transcribos
right.
so that it can know this word. Like if it Transcribus has to choose between 5 or 6 different interpretations, and one of them is a correct Portuguese word and the other 4 aren't, then it could have much better results. And this is what ChatGPT is doing. ChatGPT knows Portuguese, knows what words follow each other words. So it it might not be as good as understanding the characters as a fully trained model in Transcribos, but the fact that it knows Portuguese, my God, it it makes such a difference.
Well, in our case, we've got Portuguese being written by Spanish or Italian scribes, and they don't. The spelling is totally inconsistent. You really have to listen to sound the words, and then you get a much better idea what they really mean.
Yeah,
But getting past that, I did have a question. Looking at your birth certificates, I saw the identification of the mother's and the father's given name and their family name, but I didn't
yeah.
see it notify and the new given name of the child. Did they go on and say how they applied the family names to that child?
Yeah, that is a tricky question. That is a really, really tricky question. Like to be honest, we could dedicate a whole presentation on Portuguese surnames and passing systems. There is one passing system that is current, so that in current Portuguese they get the surname of the mother and then the surname of the father, and basically use only the last name. But that is recent. That's 20th century stuff. Before that, the surname passing tradition was was at some points kind of random. First, women, I think they didn't even have a surname per se. They usually used like a devotional surname, so da Conceição, dos Prazeres, do Rosário, do Espírito Santo, de São José. Like these, and they marry just identified as this Maria of some saint or some religious figure. And these weren't even inherited. So the mother could be Maria das Dores, and the daughter would be Maria dos Prazeres. And there would be no. I kind of think that so there's this oh God, I think it's called confirmation in the Catholic Church. So when people reach like 15 years of age, they would do a special uh, ceremony where they would get they would confirm their allegiance to the Catholic Church, and I think this is the moment that they would kind of fix their surname. And the boys would usually choose the surname of the father, but they could also choose the surname of the maternal grandfather, or they might choose the surname of the godfather. I've seen all different cases. The extensive families like they used to happen, that all the sons have the same surname, was very, very rare. Like it is very common that within a family, each son has a different surname. So yeah, how they choose, like you saw, they get one name attributed in baptism, and that they stick with, and then at some point they start using a surname, and it has some correlation to their ancestors, but
in my case, I've got a brick wall of a gentleman who died in 1698, and he's got his given name and he's got two surnames. And so we're trying to figure whether the first one is likely to be from his mother or from his father, and the second one are totally different people, because I had observed in some of the family trees that those two names didn't necessarily appear in the parents' lineage at all. So
no, that's
conundrum.
common. That's common. That the surnames don't appear in the family lineage. It's common, unfortunately. And also, a lot of times that there is like when the names are written, like for instance in this case of the one in ChatGPT, that it's written José Ribeiro Marítimo. This is when sometimes people start not understanding that the Marítimo is his profession and not his surname. So when people are called Ferreiro, then they are blacksmiths. They're not, their surname might not necessarily be Ferreiro. But then, of course, sometimes it actually passes that the Ferreiro becomes the surname. So you need to have as much documents as you can, and try to build a solid case for your ancestor, for each of them. And it's not easy when the only thing you know in old records is that they're the son of José Rodrigues and Maria das Dores, and you go and find that there's like 3 couples in the village with those names at the same time.
Thank you. I just wonder though, going back to transcribos, if the a nação hebreca model that has been developed by David, where there is such a focus on names, might work better than some other transcribers models. It might be worth a try. And then, as I say, perhaps to drop it afterwards into ChatGPT, because presumably, sadly, Ali isn't here today, but I think he's working on APIs that just will create some kind of workflow to do all these things. But yeah, it's everything is moving so quickly that who knows what will happen. And
Yeah.
David, do you have an opinion?
I just know that ChatGPT is very sensitive to the training, and when I get new names or a new scribe, after about 10 pages I can retrain it and it'll recognize that for a while. But we did start using the Portuguese model from the Inquisition records, and that was really not very helpful. I also think it's a problem if you're retraining ChatGPT and taking a lot of information from other documents that you're not going to see, it doesn't improve its performance. I think it gets an element of confusion, too many choices. That's an opinion. It's not a technical. I can't prove it, but it seems that way.
This is a hard problem, and you've got the guys from Family Search. They also developed a model that they applied to all the parish records in Portugal. Unfortunately, their results are kind of hard to use. First, because as I showed, the records they at one point they were forced to stop using numbers and to write it the long version, the long form, and sometimes the model gets confused with that. So it's reading a date and it says, oh, 20th of April of 1700. But the problem is it only read 1700, and the next line is saying 42. But the model decided to ignore the 42, so the result you get on the interface from Family Search is, hey, I found these ancestors of yours, and it's a record from April 1700, and you're like looking at it and like, okay, yeah. So I now know the day and month, but I don't know which year in the century. And unfortunately, you have to be a Mormon to click the link that takes you to the original record, which, well, I'm not a Mormon. I'm kind of guessing none of you are. So, but if you have a friendly Mormon, they can always help. You can always send them a URL and say, hey, what? Can you send me the image that's on this link here? Because your model kind of gave me the right result, but I can't see the date or the right parish. But their model is also, although it was trained and it gets a lot of good results, it's also it's hard. It's a hard problem, and they put many millions for sure in this thing.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? If anybody wants to raise their hand or put a comment in the chat, we've already overextended a bit. If not, nobody is waving. Let's close the meeting. And João, thank you very, very much. This is a subject that we've needed to talk about and haven't. And I think hopefully it's the start of a relationship, because hopefully we can sort of join together the Portuguese Jewish diaspora records with the Portuguese records themselves. So thank you very much. It's been an important talk.
Just one thing, like I usually do for all my talks, I'll share the slides. I'll give you, David, the link, and then you can share it.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you.
When you put this on YouTube, you can.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to João and to everybody who has joined us this evening. We will be back in 2 weeks looking at the community in Algeria. So thank you very much, and everybody have a wonderful afternoon or evening, depending where you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.